Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cloud Launch and Learn Marathon. I'm very happy to introduce my speaker, Raj, and start from here. My name is Elhan Yusubov, and let's invite Raj into the studio. Hey, Raj, how are you?
Hi, Alkan. I'm doing very well. Thanks for asking. And how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. Very excited to have you today, and thank you everyone who joined. Please keep in mind that there's a registration that you need to go through on the Cloud Launch and Learn Marathon website, and I'm going to paste in the link in the chat that you can use to register to make sure that you are registered to the session. Because once you attend as much as possible sessions, you will be qualified to apply and win some prizes from our sponsors. So keep an eye on it. All right. So without any overdue, I wanna uh, give the stage to Raj and let the show begin. All right? Are you ready, Raj?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, let's go.
So, hello, everyone. My name is Raj. So, that one is easy. You can reach out to me in Twitter, and that's my handle, and you can send out emails to me in that coordinate. I am a software engineer. I work for Royal Agri Farm Group. So, we are an agricultural organization. We are focused on animal and plant nutrition, and I am responsible for building digital products there. And today I'm going to be talking to you as to why Azure Kubernetes Service. A couple of years ago, when the organization decided to pivot into a platform approach, uh, we decided that AKS is going to be the platform of choice to deploy our workloads. And I started thinking, why are we jumping ship to Azure Kubernetes Service? Because the app just runs fine in Azure App Service, right? So, like my content says, really, why? And I was trying to go back to other senior engineers within the team and begin consulting on the decisions being taken. And I'm going to share the outcome of what we discussed, what we understood, what we learned in terms of why did we choose Azure Kubernetes Service. And I'm going to be sharing that with you today. So, to give some context to today's session, this is not going to be very technical. Rather, this is going to be executive briefing, if you will. So, what we will analyze is practically why we are doing what we are doing, and we are not looking forward to get into the how or the what aspects for this session. At least for today, all that we will be talking about is why did we end up choosing Azure Kubernetes Service, and why would I recommend that to you. So when we started building products, when I joined Active back in 2016, and when we started building products, we always chose the Azure App Service as the go-to platform for deploying our workload. And it just worked fine. It could auto scale. It could cater to hundreds of thousands of requests per minute, and it just worked fine. And years passed, and and Microsoft started launching other compute options on the Azure platform. And as you can see on my screen, there are, as of today, there are so many other compute options besides what I'm sharing it on the screen. So one starts always with the infrastructure components with virtual machines. And slowly pivoting into platform services, we have Azure App Service, Azure Functions, Azure Container Instances, Azure Batch, Service Fabric, and very recently, Azure Static Web Apps went GA, and we also have Azure Kubernetes Service. So, with so many compute options in hand and the workload being capable of running in any of these compute options, why did we have to choose Azure Kubernetes Service? So, this becomes the question. So instead of getting into a direction where we start making a choice on Azure Kubernetes Service and then thinking about why did we end up choosing it, we're going to take a step backward and think for ourselves as to what could be the core principles for our digital products, for our workloads that we want to build. Usually, one of the critical principle that or goal that any engineering team would have is to reduce the engineering cycle from the ideation to the to the product and to the go to market moment. So to have the shortest engineering cycle from concept to market. So this is one of the common goals that many organizations and digital teams would have, and this was nonetheless, it was also the goal that we had within our teams. And in order to reduce engineering cycle from a concept to shipping it to a market, there are certain engineering practices we thought could complement to our goal. So we started thinking about building loosely coupled systems. So if we go one item after the other, I'm going to give some context. So when we talk about loosely coupled systems, be it any organization, be it any industry, banking, finance, healthcare, life sciences, manufacturing, high tech, you name it, there are multifarious business applications running within that organization. So it can range from ERP to PLM to other systems and services to which your digital product needs to be connecting to. And having a strong dependency on these external systems could slow down engineering cycles because we constantly await on the development of features on those systems to be shipped for our products to go live. So one of the primary principle we had to shorten our engineering cycle was to build loosely coupled system. And how could we build loosely coupled system? One way of approaching this problem is by eventing. So implementing an event-driven architecture. So we started implementing some common building blocks ranging from identity to authentication and authorization services, monitoring services, to aggregating telemetry across all products, and when it comes to data generation, data transaction, all about connecting to different databases and different data structures. And these became the common building blocks for our blueprint sites and services. So our first practice was to build loosely coupled system using an event-driven architecture. And then we wanted to implement that practice by delivering building blocks to different teams that were working within digital. The other aspect that we thought could help us to reduce our cycle time to for product development is one to have a fully secure and a fully automated product development lifecycle. So eventually, we wanted to automate everything that could be automated. So in an ideal environment for a developer, you help your engineering team, you help your developer to put their focus where it belongs, and that is in creating features. So we wanted to eliminate as much of their time in worrying about the nitty gritty aspect of product development, and we wanted them to pivot their attention purely to building features and creating value. And this could be done by automating the entire DevOps pipeline. So all that the team had to do in the ideal situation was to check out a blueprint repository where they could spin off a front end workload, a back end workload, an integration workload. And the first commit would already build pipelines, be it build pipelines, be it release pipelines, and the entire infrastructure is provisioned on demand. So this is the kind of scenario that we wanted to set up for our engineering teams, which we believed would reduce our cycle time in building the concepts from our business teams. The other aspect, of course, is to build quality products, and these quality products uh, could only be relied upon for their quality when they are thoroughly tested. And we brought in different testing practices and integrated that as part of the development life cycle. So our engineers write unit tests and end-to-end tests across their front end workloads, back end workloads. And this becomes a guardrail for compliance checks. And only when these tests would eventually pass, then the product gets shipped to the test or the staging or to the production environment. And with all of these capabilities being brought into the engineering practice, from an infrastructural and from a platform standpoint, we wanted our services to be elastic. So it can grow and shrink on demand. And when it fails, it is very resilient that it can spin back up and does not have to be manually intervened by a ops guy or an ops call to manually restart the service, for example. And on the other aspect, we wanted to simplify monitoring. So, looking at the errors or traces, an engineer is able to determine why he sees what he sees. And that is the very definition of having an observable system. So, the observable system enables in determining the state of the system as based on the output that it delivers. So we were gathering all of these principles, uh, and we went back to business and said, hey, you know what, if we follow these practices, we believe that we could reduce the engineering cycle, the time that we take to build this concept and ship it to the market. So this was also a mindset change, because normally if you take any organization, the way things work, there are several product teams, and each product teams pick and choose platform services from the cloud provider that fits their need. And there are certain things that gets repeatably executed, so they build their own repository structure, they build their own code template. And every time a new product is getting created, a CI/CD pipeline has to be established, ARM templates have to be written to spin up the infrastructure. So all of these repeated actions, if can be eliminated by adhering to these engineering practices, we believed we could eliminate a lot of repeatable actions and thereby shipping ideas a little faster. So having had all of these principles in mind, we looked at Kubernetes. And Kubernetes, as you know, has been built with certain design principles in mind. And those design principles complemented to the principles what we had and what we wanted to achieve. And therefore, Kubernetes as a platform became a very relevant choice to explore. And to and to anyone who's new to Kubernetes, it is an orchestration platform to run your containers and scale your containers. And Azure Kubernetes became a very viable option for the reasons being it was a fully and it is a fully managed service, and it is a serverless infrastructure, and thereby giving us the comfort level the team that the team could put their focus again not on the nitty gritty areas of maintaining the node clusters, but then we could move to a higher level of abstraction where we could focus on the engineering requirements of the rest of the product teams. So some of the drivers that moved us towards AKS was repeatable DevOps pattern. So from having multiple product teams who would create their own pipelines over and over again for every new product that they build within their business domain. We assimilated all of the product teams under a singular Azure DevOps project. And each product team could have their own repository in a single DevOps project. And these repositories would be a spin off from a blueprint site and a blueprint service that our platform engineering team maintains. And this blueprint site, uh, could the moment you spin up a blueprint site, it would be a fully functional skeleton of an Angular application that allows you to do the most common functionalities, do some read write transaction, listen to an event, and this blueprint site becomes a starting point to actually implement the business idea of that corresponding domain that they are working on. So, because we have blueprint sites and we have blueprint backend services, uh, all the pipelines that come behind these services, where it has to be built, it has to be tested and released across multiple environments, became identical. And given that the target platform is Kubernetes, which allows multiple containers to run as pods upon its nodes, this became a very logical direction for us to choose AKS, because we could implement DevOps pattern more repeatably across all the product teams. So eventually, what we could observe is Kubernetes becomes a platform to build your own digital platform. So usually, uh, the technology choice in this case allowed us to pivot from a product mindset to a platform mindset. So usually, a product mindset is addressed towards solving a singular problem in a singular business domain, and it may or may not have reusable capabilities across the other domain. And so when the other domain has to build a similar product that might use part of the features from the next domain, then it simply has to be rebuilt. And moving into a platform oriented approach allowed us to look at it from a holistic angle, where we could build reusable service that there are common entry points for several domains that they could take advantage of each other's features. So if you look at it, AKS being a platform in itself, and trying to ship your products upon AKS gave an option to pivot into more of delivering a platform oriented functionality compared to a product oriented functionalities. And the other logical reasoning towards AKS was that it had its integration capabilities to Microsoft services, so be it IDEs or Azure, other Azure services. Like Machine Learning Studio has a very tight integration towards Azure Kubernetes service. So your machine learning models could be converted into APIs, and those APIs could be directly deployed from Azure Machine Learning Studio directly onto the Kubernetes platform. So, given that several of our teams were heavily invested on machine learning capabilities, and the reasoning was quite strong for us to choose AKS platform, given the integrations across Azure services. And given in any organization, once you implement a platform and have products that look similar, allows you to take a customer through a journey across your different product or service offerings. So this seamless experience that allows users from having, let's say, if I'm an insurance company and I deliver insurance advice in my advisory application, the outcome of my advice could result in the user purchasing a product, so which is a e-commerce action. And so this journey from advice to purchase to orders to shipping could be governed into a single customer journey, although it is built as separate products running on the same platform. So, adopting to Kubernetes, particularly AKS in this case, gave us a perspective to build connected systems, and which enables a good customer journey. And besides this, the regular Kubernetes benefits are things that you could very easily uh, read from the docs page, that are very obvious around elasticity, self-healing, and resiliency. So AKS allowed us or Kubernetes in general is known for its elasticity in nature. So let's say I'm deploying a container which has a peak load at certain moments in time, then it could elastically scale into multiple containers. And the actor model that we implemented in those containers, the clustering the clustering within the actor model allowed us to implement the logic in certain way that, for example, the entity migrations that has to be executed just once will be only executed once. And so the aspect of elasticity without impairing the business logic gave us a very good momentum on scaling up and scaling down on demand, and AKS becomes a very good platform to um, has become a very good enabler for us to use that feature. And the other generic Kubernetes feature, of course, is the self-healing capability. When a node fails, and all the pods in the containers would be spun up across the next available node. And being serverless in nature, AKS gives you a possibility to expand your infrastructure into virtual nodes. So whenever there is a peak demand which is beyond your spun off capacity, AKS takes the responsibility to burst off into Azure container instances. So these feature sets became a good logical reasoning for us to move towards choosing AKS as the platform of choice to build and ship our digital products and services. So, if you ask me why AKS, again, in simple terms, it complements our engineering principles. And going forward, uh, given the different Azure compute options we saw in the beginning, then the natural question is, what if we use Azure Kubernetes service, and what do we do with the rest? In what context should we use the other compute options? This is a very good decision chart that gives a good indication on when to use what kind of compute options. So, whenever it is workload which is coming from a legacy landscape and it has to be moved into into cloud on a lift and shift fashion, virtual machine happens to be a very good choice. If it is a high performance workload, let's go to Azure Batch. On event driven workloads with short lived processes, Azure Functions. And likewise, if you look at this decision chart, it gives a very good indication on when to use what Azure compute option. And I wanted to share this piece since in the beginning of the presentation, we also looked at possible compute options which are outside Azure Kubernetes service. And these are good indicators on when to use what compute options. And the next topic that I would want to quickly run through is for any digital organization within a company, one of the there are two key responsibilities: one to build quality software, and the next to run that quality software. And one of the other practices that we wanted to bring in is site reliability engineering. So to some, it could be a relatively new concept, but it's been on the floor for quite a while. And Ben Trainer from Google Engineering, who happens to be the founder of SRE, calls SRE like uh, fundamentally, he says this is what happens when you bring a software engineer to design an operations function. So that exactly what happens when you have SRE practice and building and shipping our services on the AKS platform, having a platform oriented mindset quickly enabled us to explore areas on site reliability engineering. So whenever we talk about reliability, I quote this example. This is not the nicest example to hear, but I think this settles the concept quite clearly, at least in my head. So let's say if I wanted to use the toilet and I go to a public public bathroom and there are half a dozen toilets available, then that talks about, if that toilet is not occupied, then it talks about that the toilet is available. But the fact that I can use the toilet and I can flush it out says for the fact that the toilet is also reliable. So, besides the aspect of availability of a product, the most integral aspect to a product or to a platform is its reliability. And when you have software engineers being deployed to run reliability functions, SRE practices, they constantly look for options to eliminate human labor. And it is much easier for an SRE team to operate at a level of abstraction where they can have a perspective, where they can have a view on all of the services, all of the products that's running within that organization. And having an orchestration platform like Kubernetes allows you to sneak peek into it. So while we are running short of time, I'm going to do a very quick. I'm also looking at my chart for any indicators from the host. So there isn't any. So going forward, a couple of SRE topics to be aware of as you make a decision to move into more of a platform-oriented engineering, implementing strong operational practices. And when it comes to SRE, the items that are very often being discussed are service level indicators, service level objectives, and service level agreements. And the other metrics that we talk about are error and toil budget. Uh, in simple terms, indicators are basically pointers. So, for example, let's say what is your ideal body temperature, and that is being measured and represented in Fahrenheit or Celsius. But then that becomes a metric for us as an indicator. And in the context of software practices, we look at indicators that vary from request latency to error rate, uh, and so on. And these indicators allow us to define um, certain target level. So if I say, okay, an optimum body temperature needs to be 98.4 degrees Celsius for a person to be completely healthy, or a person who is recovering from fever, and if his temperature falls below 98.4, then he is absolutely normal. Then I'm setting a service level objective. So I'm setting an objective that the temperature needs to be under 98.4, under or 98.4, which is an objective, which is represented by an indicator, in this case temperature. And in the context of software, of course, it can be applied to request latency, error rate. At least those are the two immediate indicators that came to my mind, and those are on the screen. And whenever these objectives are being met, or when the objectives are not being met, what exactly is the commercial agreement in place, and how are we remediating the violation of that violation of that objective. So these are basically governed and agreed upon with different business owners for every product, and this gives the team a very tight control on running their products and services. And the next topic is error and toil budget. Toil is usually stuff that people would toil budget is usually a budget that is reserved for stuff that the team decides it is not worth automating. So it takes 60 hours to automate this entire action, but it only takes 6 hours to manually do it, and we only do it 2 times a year. So there's no point automating it. So these are reasonable action items that we observe within every product, within every domain, and we set budgets on to what extent we can allow toil there. And when it comes to error budget usually represents the differential between the ideal reliability of a service versus the allowed reliability of a service. And in every case, ideal reliability is always 100%. And if your agreed upon reliability is 80%, then that gives you a 20% error budget. So if the team is allowed to operate on a 20% error budget, then there are activities that they can execute within the window of that 20%. So we briefly talked about SRE topics because the aspect for any engineering team to be able to build quality software, or to be able to own quality software, is to be able to build it and to be able to run it effectively. And to building it and shipping it, Kubernetes platform, and particularly the managed Kubernetes platform in the Azure infrastructure, becomes a fantastic option. And to run it effectively, SRE practices are a very good option.
All
So what
right,
next?
Raj, thank you for all these, great mentions and for your Kubernetes, why Kubernetes and starting session. So there was one question on the, due to time, there was one question on the chat from Yoshra saying, what do you mean by elasticity and Kubernetes benefits? If you can touch upon that, that would be great before we finalize our session.
Absolutely. So part of the part of the last slide of my conversation, that's on the screen. So I will first complete those two sentences, and then we will quickly address Yosra's question. Uh, so the next logical place to go forward is to look at the design principles of Kubernetes platform itself. There's a fantastic talk by Saad Ali, who's a senior software engineer in Google, and that's something that I would recommend. And there is a Kubernetes learning path that gives you, a, irrespective of the managed service provider, it gives you a fantastic starting point on how to start from zero to becoming an expert on the Kubernetes platform. And now coming to Yosra's question, what do you mean by elasticity and Kubernetes benefits? Elasticity is the capable Elasticity is a capability of a service to grow and shrink on demand. So let's say I build a e-commerce site, and my payments infrastructure and my payment service get a lot of peak load on during Thanksgiving Day. So but rest of the time of the year, the payment service does not have to cater to such a heavy load. So what happens then is the aspect of elasticity allows the payment service that's running on the Kubernetes platform to replicate itself into multiple pods based on demand from the customer. So if there are 10,000 requests normally, and during Thanksgiving it is going to be 100,000 requests, then it is possible for the pod to replicate itself to 10 copies, to 10 instances of its service, thereby catering to all the incoming requests. So just like a band which is elastic, during Thanksgiving there is a lot of need, so I'm expanding the elasticity, and after Thanksgiving the payment service does not have to be stressed that much, and therefore it can shrink back.
Okay. Yeah, that's very great. Thank you, Raj, again for touching that question. Thank you for joining and presenting your session on Cloud Launch and Learn Marathon. Please, everybody, check up the link that we put on the chat. It's about registering for this event and putting your feedback. And check us on YouTube as well as Twitter. And no, thank you, everyone. Now we are going to have a short break before switching to the next session. Thank you, Raj, again for being here. And I'm looking forward to see you again. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our session. My name is Elhan Yusubov, and I'm very glad to see you all joining our session. We have our guest today, Sergey. Sergey, hi, and how are you doing there?
I'm great. I'm great. Pretty late here, but I will be fine. Hopefully, we'll see.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll
Thank you for being here.
fall asleep.
Yeah. Great. Just quick reminder for everyone, please register for the sessions on Cloud Launch and Learn because you can win some prizes by attending the events. And I'm going to actually share the link in comments about the attendance so that you can fill the feedback and plus, get into this lucky draw of 20 participants who attend the most of the sessions and win some valuable prizes from our sponsors, Microsoft, Redgate, and other partners. Yeah, that said, I want to give the stage to Sergey. And Sergey, this is your stage, so start your show.
Thank you. All right. Hello, or good morning, or good evening, whatever it may be. So this session is going to be about containers, slightly later than in the plan, but that will be that's the session that we planned. So this session is going to be about containers again. So we'll continue to talk about Kubernetes and all of those container things. But this time, this time, let's take a look how we can test the security of those things. So if we are pen testers or red teamers, what we can try to do if we want to check how secure our containers are. So that's going to be the goal of this session. Most of the time, I would say 90% of the session, you will see like an offensive demo. So I will not talk a lot about how to protect, but I'm going to show how to compromise. And so you may decide yourself how you want to mitigate. I'll have a slide with mitigations, but most of the time, I will focus on offensive things. So like most of my sessions, I show how things may be compromised. So before we start talk about containers, let me say a few words about myself. I don't know, maybe it's too much of my photos here. So my name is Sergey, and I'm from Russia. So that I would say that's my burden to show all of those offensive things. I do penetration test. Also, I'm an instructor. I speak on conferences, on different conferences, Microsoft conferences, or other conferences like B-Sites and so on. If you want to see, if you want to contact me or watch my other sessions, you may find me on LinkedIn. And so every time when I have a new speech, I announce that on LinkedIn. I have some certifications, but I guess your goal here is not to listen about my certifications, and you want to know about containers and their security. So let's get started. One more thing, the last thing. I'm a big fan of live demos, so you will not see a lot of slides here. Most of the time, I'm going to show you live demos. But before I start to show you live demos, let me first show you one slide about container basics. So you see the white screen here, that's expected. So let me first show you what I call containers 101. Maybe you're not really familiar with containers. If you're a developer or DevOps engineer, probably you should know the containers pretty well. But if you're a pen tester or IT professional, maybe you didn't have a lot of experience with containers. So what I want to do, I want to give you a quick overview of those container services we have in the cloud in Azure. So in this case, we'll be on the same page, because quite often people confuse about what AKS, what ACR, and so on. So let me quickly, really quickly, explain you the difference between services, and so then we'll use them in our pen testing demonstrations. So first of all, when we work with containers, when we want to run application in container, we must create container image. So this image will contain some of the operating system pieces and our application. And most of the time, we use a Docker to create an image. So first, we need to create an image. So how we create an image to be it's out of scope of this presentation, but Docker will be used to create an image, and so how we place our application, that's a different story. We will not discuss it here. So then, if we want to make this image to be available in the cloud, we must push this image to service called ACR, or Azure Container Registry. So this registry will store images. So that's going to be storage of those images, but in the cloud now. And so when we want to deploy the application in container, so what we can do, we can run this container from image in Azure Container Service, container instance, which is more like considered like dev and test service, like lightweight service that may run small containers, small applications, or more common and more, let's say, production ready, Kubernetes or AKS, where we can also run containers, but this time we may run hundreds and thousands of those containers there. So that's how this works in a nutshell. So first we have an image, then we push this image to container registry or ACR shortly, and images will be stored there. And then when we want to deploy the new application on Kubernetes or container instance, we will take an image from registry and we'll create a container from that image. So that is the very simple process. And hopefully it was clear. And now let's start to discuss how we can compromise containers and how we can get some access to Kubernetes and some other container services. So another white screen, that's expected. And from here, I want to jump to demo. As I promised that I will give you a lot of demos. And first, I want to show you a quick win. So what you can try to do if you're a pen tester, what you can try to quickly get access to Kubernetes. So if you can get access to workstation of developer and the developer profile and his user profile. So there's a high chance that this developer, DevOps engineer, there's a high chance that this DevOps engineer, this administrator, developer, whatever, there's a high chance that this user used a tool called kubectl. So kubectl, that's the command line tool that we use to manage Kubernetes. Let me run cmd and go to cd and run kubectl. And let's say kubectl get pods. And now I can see pods. So I can see the pods that run on Kubernetes using kubectl. Let me try to do the same on the different workstation. So let's say, I think it should be here. Yeah, kubectl, get pods, and it should fail. Please fail. Come on, do it for me. Yeah, so as you can see, there's no connectivity. So question, why I was able to connect from the previous workstation, but I cannot do it from here. The reason is I must specify credentials. So I must first log in. But here you saw that I just opened CMD, I typed the command, I did not log in, and I got the result. So the reason is after you log in for the first time, the kubectl will cache your those credentials. And so what you can do, those credentials will be stored here in the folder called .kube. So if you go to user profile, that's my user profile, and you can find .kube folder here. So that is going to be this access token. So what I can do, if I take this token, so let me just add that to archive, and copy this to another workstation. Let me find my user profile, go.kube, it's empty here, extract. And now let's try again. Now, look at this. So now I have access to Kubernetes cluster, and what I can do it again. So let's say kubectl minus it. Let me take let's say front end, this one, and I want to add shell, run shell, unknown command. Oh, I believe it used to work. Looks like this command was duplicated. Or maybe I'm wrong with this pod. Anyway, so I forgot the command. So it must be like this, or maybe it was duplicated. But I can try to manage this Kubernetes now, and I can say, let's say, get nodes. I can see the node pool and so on. So now I'm administrator of this Kubernetes. So that's a quick win. In the real world, we really like quick wins. Of course, it will not be the primary thing in my presentation, because quick wins, I show the quick win and that's it. So it's too quick. So I will show you another way how we can try to pen test our containers, but try to do something simple. If you can have access to profile of someone who already logged in kubectl, you may steal credentials, and you are all set, and you can get access to Kubernetes cluster. But let's try something else. Let's try another way, which will be more complicated and will take most of the time of this session. And let me show you another approach. So in the second demo, which is like a second way to compromise, the Azure Container Registry will become like a primary service that I want to test. So Azure Container Registry, if I want to push image there, or if I want to pull image from there, I must have permissions. So I cannot do it anonymously. So if someone has permissions to pull and push, what this user can do? So someone may pull or download existing image from container registry. Then this user, let's call it attacker, can Trojanize image and push this image back with Trojan. And so then I can just step back and company will just normally deploy containers, but the containers will be deployed using Trojanized image. And so in this case, the containers on Kubernetes or container instance, they will be deployed with Trojan. So let's try that. I'm gonna switch to demo again, and this time I want to download first pull image from container registry. Let me show you first, before I start to pull anything. Let me first show what do I have. So I have container registry, and in container registry, I have one image. It's called hello W. So what I want to do, I want to download this image from registry, and then I will Trojanize this image. So first, I'm going to my workstation, and I'm going to the folder called cd to this folder. And so what I want to do, I want to pull this image. So let me try to pull this. So this is command to pull. Let me do it. It should fail again. Let's try again. It should fail. The reason why it should fail, because my request was not authorized. So first I must log into container registry if I want to pull something. Oh, looks like I was, let me double check. Nope. Interesting. but I download that. All right, so my permissions was enough to download. So I download this image locally. And now what I can do, I can extract this. And I can see the structure of image. And so number of folders, I can open any folder. And here I can see layers. In each folder, I can find layers. If I open the layer, that's going to be like a regular Linux structure, like var, html, and index.html. So what I want to do, I want to extract one of the layers. And let me place my Trojan that I pre-create. It's going to be shared library. And so let me take this folder with this library. I'm using Windows Terms library. And so I'm going to add that to this layer. Before I move on, what I want to also do, I'm going to open PowerShell. cd into this folder. And what I want to do, I want to get file hash of layer. And let me just take notes about this. Let me copy this, open Notepad, and take notes. All right, so now what I can do, I can zip it again, add to archive, and let me replace the old one with a new one. And so because it has the new hash now, let me check the hash of the new layer. All right, so now I have the old hash and new hash. You may ask me, wait a second, why do you need this hash? You'll see soon. All right, this is not it. I must do a few more things. So let me add some other things here. Come on. I'm going to open this file. And here, what I want to do, I want to add some additional commands. I can see here what will happen if when this containers was built. Let me add something else. So what I did, I add command called ld preload. So it will load this library. And because this library will give me a remote shell, I specify my IP address that will accept, and the port that will accept the request. So the idea here that my Trojan will connect to this address using this port. So that's the first thing I want to do. I want to add this command. I want to add this library and my attributes. And also what I must do, I must tell the new hash. I must change the hash here. So I can see this. That was the hash. Let me just quickly compare it. Yes, that was the old hash. So what I must do, I must change this old hash to the new hash. Also, you may find that this old hash in lowercase, but my hash in uppercase. So what I want to do, I want to convert that to lowercase and replace the hash. So that's it. Now it should work. Fingers crossed. I'm gonna compress again, and let's call that hello Troj. And now I have new image in the file, which is like my old image, but this time Trojanized. All right. So now what I want to do, I want to go to Docker, and I want to say Docker load -i, and let's say hello Troj. And yep. So image was loaded, and now I can see 2 images for some reasons. Let me remove. Oh yeah, when I did it for the first time, when I get it from the cloud, it add me a new image. So let me just do it again. I want to make sure that I have the right image. Yep. So I have one image only. Now let me check if my Trojan is working. So what I want to do, I want to say docker run. I want to map port 8080 to port 80, and I want to use this image with this name, which is like this. All right, it's working. It's working. So for users, let's check that this application is working, because it must be like a just regular page with hello world. Let's check that. So if I go to localhost, and yeah, it's working. So application is working. So for end users, it will look normally, but for me as an attacker, I should have an access to the actual container. So I'm inside of the container. So let me break this, and now I know that my Trojan is working. Next step, I want to push. So let me go back to slides, by the way. So now I'm here. So I'm Trojan. I Trojanized the image, and what I want to do, I want to push this image back to container registry. So I'm gonna jump back to my demo environment. What I want to do, oh damn it! What I want to do, I want to push this container back. Let's try that. And it says, look at this. So the only one layer was pushed. And now if I go back to Azure, and if I click refresh and click here, I can see that this one was updated a few seconds ago. That's my local time. So yeah, that's a few seconds ago. Now I know that this image was updated. So I'm done. I'm done as an attacker. Now let's imagine I'm a regular user. I'm a company user. And so what I want to do, I want to deploy normally container. So if I will use Kubernetes or container instance, the containers there must be deployed from Trojanized image. So I override the old image, the normal image, with my Trojanized image. So let's try that. So first, I'm gonna try container instance, which is the good way to test if everything is working fine in the cloud. And then I will jump to Kubernetes, and we'll see what will happen in Kubernetes. All right, I'm gonna go back to demo. So generally speaking, I don't really need this environment anymore, so I can switch to the portal. And now what I want to do, I want to go to container instances. I think I said a registry instance, container instance. And so what I want to do here, I want to deploy that to, let's call it ACI. And I want to deploy that from this image, hello W, which was Trojanized. Who did it? Interesting. What is that? Microsoft. Oh, I guess I know what it is. So when I just push image, it start to test it. So maybe now Microsoft is testing my image, so that's why it always give me a shell. So I guess it's like some sort of vulnerability assessment or something like this. Oh, it's finished. So now I can continue. Right. So now let me deploy let me deploy this container into instance. Click create, and fingers crossed, it should give me a shell. I already saw that I had a shell from the cloud, but let's see if I can get a shell to container instance. Come on. It's still creating, so that's normal. That's not normal. I don't have a shell at this moment, but as soon as this instance will be deployed, I should get hopefully I should get a shell. Soon I will get. Anyway, we'll see. But container instance, even if I get a shell to container instance, it will not be super useful for me. It will give me an idea that my Trojan is. Or here we go. So I'm there, and if I look at the IP address, probably it's Microsoft. It's Microsoft, and so let me test that. Let me check that. Yeah, it's MSFT. So that's Microsoft. So now I know my Trojan is working, and it's working in the cloud as well. But the container instance itself will not be super useful for me, because most of the time this service is isolated, and it will not give me a lot of many benefits. By the way, let's also check that, yeah, hello world work in the cloud, and so for regular users, it's still normal application. But once again, not super useful, because container instance will not give me any other, anything else. So I may get access to container, but not to the whole infrastructure. So Kubernetes in this case will be more interesting, because container instance is more isolated, but Kubernetes, if I get access to Kubernetes, to one of the containers, what I can do, I can first try to test the cluster itself. And also what I can do, I can try to find other containers, and also can try to test them as well. So my next goal will be deploy the same container from the same image in Kubernetes. I'm going to jump back to demos as usual. Let me, by the way, first remove container instance to make sure I don't have any conflicts. I mean, the extra shells. And let me find my Kubernetes. Before I start deploying Kubernetes, let me show you what I already have. I already have one application, Kubernetes, which is very, very famous, Azure voting app. Probably you know this application. If you work with Kubernetes at least once, you know this demo from Microsoft. It's super popular. So what I want to do, I already have this application. What I want to do, I want to deploy my container and try to get access to this application from my container. So let me deploy my container. I'm gonna take manifest. And let me deploy new container here. Oh, I forgot to configure listener. Hopefully it's not too late. I hope not too late. I guess it was too late.
Hi, Sergey. It's quick reminder, we have 6-7 minutes left, okay?
6-7?
Yes.
Huh.
Try to see, if you can wrap up, if possible.
I believe I had 50 minutes for the whole session.
Yes, correct. Just give it a try,
All right.
I appreciate your effort, yeah.
All right, I got it. So, yeah, that was too late. Let me just quickly kill this. Confirm delete here. And here as well. So please remove this those guys as soon as possible. Hopefully it will be removed soon. Let me jump back to slide. So now what my goal is to run it on Kubernetes, and I will do two things. So first of all, I will test if I can get access to cluster. The spoil, I will not be able to do it, and then I will try to get access to that application, and we'll see. I guess I will. Finally. So let's try again. I have the listener. Let's click add, and fingers crossed. Yeah, I have the shell, and this is Kubernetes. So now what I want to do, if I get access to this cluster. So first, let me add path variables. And first, what I want to do, I want to install curl. It will take some time. I will use curl to see what permissions do I have on the cluster level. That takes some time. And also the output here is not perfect, so sometimes it's pretty hard to find if it was installed or not. It looks like it's done. So let me click let me check token, because in the Kubernetes cluster, in each container has the token to access the storage. And so this token also may be used. To try to get access to the cluster itself. Damn it. So got that. And now let's try to get access to cluster itself. So I import token. And so what I want to do, I want to see if I can get access to cluster. Yes, I can see a number of APIs on the cluster level, but if I want to see something else, like if I want to go deeper and can see the list of pods, I cannot do it. So I can list APIs, but I cannot see, I can't move any further with this token. So no luck. But let's try to pen test. Let's try to check other containers. And so what I want to do, I want to install a very well-known tool for pen testers called Nmap. This Nmap tool will be I will use that as a port scanner. And so what I want to do, I want to find other containers on the network, and then check open ports on those containers. So for the sake of time, I will not run the full scan. What I want to do, I want to take this IP address 10.0.200.222 and 126. Oh, sorry, this one. I think Nmap already installed. Yeah, I guess. And so now what I want to do, I want to run nmap scan. So I already configured everything. And look at this. It says port 6379 is open. This port is Redis. So the Redis is installed there. And so what I want to do next, I want to install Redis tool on my container. And let's connect using Redis. Let's type info. And yeah, we are in Redis. So let's say get keys. Keys like this. Yeah, so I can see cats and dogs. And I can see there's cats and dogs. Let's say I want to see to be fair, I forgot how this command looked like. I forgot the Redis syntax. Let me just double check that. get cats. All right. So let's say get cats and set 0. All right. Let me vote here. And now let me get cats again. Hey, yeah, it's 1 now. And finally, what I want you to do, let me type monitor. And so I will monitor all of the incoming requests. And so please, dear TV watchers, go to this website and just vote for cats, for dogs, doesn't really matter. For someone, just I need your votes. I need your activity. So just go to this website and just make an activity. If someone watched this session, of course. If someone can see that. Huh.
Yes, we have 5 people who are watching. So so this session is on demand, so we see everything. Great.
All right. Looks like I had to do it myself. And so, and I can see now all of the incoming requests that in the real time. All right. So, and that's how can we Trojanize the image and get access to Kubernetes cluster. So the last slide with mitigations, I will not show you anything here. I will just tell you some possible mitigations. So first of all, when I did that pull and push, so here you may first of all follow the principle of least privileges. So don't give those privileges to everyone. And also what you can do, you may allow only access to container registry from the local network, from virtual network, not from the internet, only from virtual network. Or what you can do, you may whitelist public IP addresses. So you will be able to pull and push only from trusted IP addresses. Also, next problem, when I stole cache credentials, in this case, principle of least privileges, and also you may use separate workstation for administer Kubernetes. So in this case, the separate workstation will be well protected. Image Trojanized. In this case, what you can do, you may enable content trust and sign images. And if you sign images and enable content trust, of course, in this case, you may only run trusted images, signed images by trusted signer. And also you may use some vulnerability scanners. I will, for the sake of time, let me avoid that to show you vulnerability scanners. You may use Aquasec Tools, very well-known company, or also you may use Azure Defender, which is built into Azure Security Center, and so it also has VA solution. When I run installation of tools, you may also avoid root permissions in containers. So in this case, even if someone compromised the container, he or she will not be able to install tools. And finally, when I jump from my container to other containers, like from my compromised container to Redis database, so what you may do, you may create Azure network policies, and you may control how those containers communicate. All right, so now if you have any questions, let me know. I keep an eye on the chat, and so if you want to say something or ask something, I'm still here.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Sergey, for showing us pen testing Azure Container Services, ACR. That was a really awesome session. I know that we were a little bit short on time, so thank you for speeding that up a little bit. I'm looking at the chat and I don't see any questions so far, but hey, if you are still there and you have a question to our awesome speaker, please feel free to put that there. We'll be here for a minute or two and then we'll conclude the session. All right?
Sure. Yep.
Yeah, we'll stay for a minute and see what happens. Okay, but meanwhile, Sergey, just from your experience of pen testing the Kubernetes related services, is there a lot of attacks that's going on, or how much your clients are securing their container workloads in Kubernetes. So what is the trend now?
I would say when you use Kubernetes, when they so for companies that they use Kubernetes in the cloud, the actual cluster is not very vulnerable. So the cluster itself is pretty fine. So don't forget to update cluster because there's an option there. It's pretty simple. But what I quite often see is misconfigurations, like just when companies just gave too much permissions to users, and if this user was compromised or this user is not very trusted, in this case, this user may have keys to the kingdom. That's what we found quite often when the users or developers, especially developers, they want to have all of the
Sure.
permissions. And those developers, and if they lose their access, I mean, if the account of developer was compromised, or maybe developer want to do some naughty things, so that may be the problem.
Yes. Okay, so
that,
misconfiguration, we'll keep an eye on that. Thank you for your answer. And it looks like we didn't get any questions, but you covered pretty much everything. Thank you for that. Again, thank you, Sergey, for presenting today. It was an awesome, having you in the studio. Hope to see you next time. So everybody, we'll give a short break here, and we will be back in the studio in a few minutes. All right, see you all. Thank you.
bye bye.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our session. We have a great, awesome speakers. My name is Elhan Yusubov. I'm going to be your host, and we have I want everybody to welcome the Ola Jumoke, right? What's the right way to say your name? I don't want to butcher it.
Yeah, you tried. At least you, yeah, you tried. At least you didn't bite your tongue. Yes, it's Olajumoke.
Okay. Yeah, it's always a bit tricky to say new names, all right? But it's awesome
Yeah, I
experience.
can
So,
understand.
yeah, I would like to welcome you and your session build an HR chatbot using PVA with Microsoft Teams and apps. And before we start, this session, I want everybody to welcome this session and plus, keep an eye on the chat so that if you have any questions for our speaker, feel free to put that there. We'll bring that by the end of the session. In addition to that, go ahead and register for Microsoft for this Cloud Launch and Learn Marathon. And I'm going to share a feedback link in few minutes that you can go and provide your feedback, and plus the lucky first 20 attendees that attend the most of the sessions are going to be given prizes from our sponsors, from Microsoft, Redgate, and other partners. So, make sure that you register. And now I'm giving the, stage to our dear speaker. Please go ahead.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're joining. It's an hour to midnight here in Lagos, Nigeria that I'm joining from. but I'm very glad to be here, and I hope every one of you are glad also. It's been a very wonderful session all throughout, and then I wish I can be part of that um, game actually, or to win that prize really. But fortunately, I won't be able to participate. But so it's good. My name once again is Olajumoke Turiola. The topic that the topic of my session is actually build an HR chatbot using Power Virtual Agents, PVA for short, within Microsoft Teams app. I want to say a very big thank you to the organizer of this Cloud Launch and Learn Marathon. And I want to say a big thank you for all the audiences, every one of us that are on this show today. Thank you so much, guys, for taking out time. So a little bit of introduction about me. Who am I really? My name, once again, like I said, is Olajumoke Turiola. I'm the CTO for Hashem Limited, a Gold certified Microsoft partner. I'm a Microsoft MVP on the Office app and services space. I'm an MCT. I have very strong passion for M365, Microsoft Exchange, Azure, and then my favorite in the Power Platform is actually the Power Virtual Agents. I love music, I love technology, and then I love really to cook very good delicacies. Okay, so I happen also to be the group leader, one of the group leader in the MCT Nigeria M365 user group. Is actually a group that comes together every time to hold sessions on everything on M365, from Office 365, Windows, and EMS. And then we hold our session every Friday. Yes, you can join the M365 user group on Twitter. That is it. And then you can reach me on LinkedIn. And that's also my Twitter handle. And if you want to check up any of the recordings that I've done in the past, please visit the YouTube channel. All right. So the agenda for today, let's delve into it right away. I'm going to be looking at the overview of the Microsoft Power Platform. Then we go in. I know the Power Platform is not new, but maybe, just maybe, there might be some of us here that are just new to it. So I'm just going to go into that just briefly, really. And then I'm going to do also a brief introduction to the Microsoft Virtual Agent. And I'm going to look at the Microsoft Virtual Agents and Microsoft Team, what is there really. And then I'm going to look at a brief overview on the Microsoft Dataverse. And then we'll move to demo and then question and answer. I hope I can take your questions and answer. I'll have enough time. All right then. So to begin, um, let's look at what Microsoft Power Platform is. So the Microsoft Power Platform is a group of products offered by Microsoft to actually develop and build complex business solutions. You can actually use it also to analyze and draw data visualization. You can actually also use it to automate business process. And finally, build intelligent virtual agents, also known as chatbots. So I'm going to be talking about each of these components that really does these, all of this I have said, but just that's the overview of what it is. It is just a group of Microsoft products offered to do all of these that you can see. And all these products, the cool thing about it is that it is offered on a platform which no code or low code is actually required to build the applications. So for someone like me that has never written any line of code, this is very welcoming for me, because why? I can get myself around it, I can easily learn with it, and then it offers me a platform that I can build anything without any knowledge of coding really. And then it's actually designed to unlock the potentials of products like Dynamics 365 and Office 365 together. These two empower you and any member of your organization or your staff to innovate with one connected platform. Now, moving on, in a nutshell, really, the Power Platform provides four different tools under this umbrella. So I'm just going to quickly pick so if you see me, just a quick announcement. If you see me turn my face this sideways, just know it's because I have two screen. And then so sometimes when I'm moving between the screen, I may have to turn my face sideways. So like I said, in a nutshell, the Power Platform provides four different tools under this umbrella, which are the what you can do with you can analyze, you can add, you can automate, and you can assist. And we'll see how all of these plays together. We all know that the business world today is increasingly data driven. Whether you're a small or large business organization, definitely you will use data, and you use this data to be able to make decision about your sales, about hiring, about goals, and all area of which the data can provide really. But what about if you have this data and then you can interpret what that data is doing really, and then you cannot even communicate what the data is doing to every other relevant person in your organization. And that is what the Power BI does. And the Power BI really is doing what is actually helping you to remove that intimidation. And then what it does is that it allows you to be able to analyze complex data and enable continuous improvements really. So you have it as a business analytic tool which allows you to easily connect to data sources of every type. Now again, what I'm going to be doing again, I'm going to be looking at the Power Apps. Now you've gotten those data, but you want to act on those data. Probably maybe you want to build a small app that is a low code app that your users can be able to interact with. What allows you to be able to do that is actually the Power Apps, because the Power Apps allows is a low code approach to custom app. So it allows you to quickly build friendly apps and quickly build them without the knowledge, like I say, of a developer, actually reducing the pressure on your busy IT team. And that is what the Power. So moving on. Now we want to automate all of these apps that has been built so far, and then the way you can find that really is with the power of the the Power Automate. Now, the Power Automate helps you to avoid repetitive tasks. And then what you can do is that you can have automated workflows between your Microsoft services and also third party. So finally, we're going to look at the Power Virtual Agent, which actually is my favorite here, really, because it allows you with the power of virtual agents, you can actually build chatbots without much coding, really. What you do with this is actually you can provide a self-service assistance to your teams while reducing help desk requests. Now, moving on to that, at the back end of all of these, one wonders what really brings all of this together. And this is where you have the dataverse. The dataverse is what provides a unified and simplified data schema so that the applications and services can interoperate. So what you have at the end of all of these, where you have the Power BI, the Power Apps, the Power Automate, and the Power Virtual Agent, at the back end of all of these components, you have the database, such like more like a database, also like a schema really to hold all of those information and allow them also to interoperate amongst themselves. Now, let's go straight to the topic of today, which is actually the Power Virtual Agents. I believe that laying that foundation is actually very important so that we can know what the Power Platform is all about. Maybe for those who haven't heard of the word Power Platform, but I doubt really if there's anyone. But then I guess just to lay that background. Now, for Power Virtual Agents, actually, it uses what is referred to as a guided no-code graphical interface approach to empower every member of your team to easily create and maintain an intelligent virtual agent. So what you have is that is a chatbot services is built on the Microsoft Power Platform. That is why I introduced that earlier, and then it's also built on the bot framework. Now, PVA for short lets you create powerful chatbots that can answer questions posed by your customers, even your employees or visitors to your website or any of your services they're consuming. Now, some of the general use cases or scenario of PVA are: one, you can use it for the COVID-19 infection rate and tracking information. Probably you can put this on your website. You can put it even You can put it on the Teams channel for people to get information around the COVID-19 infection, and then you can also use it for sales up and support issues. Really, again, you can, if you're such that probably you want your customers to know your opening hours or your store information, or even locations where your stores are located, or they are probably within your country or outside your country. You can actually use the chatbot to answer some of those simple questions. Again, for an HR, you can actually use the chatbot to answer questions for employee health and the vacation benefits. This is actually my favorite, really, because that's what we're going to be showing. I'm going to be showing you today. Now, for other questions that employee can pose, like for businesses, that's what the Power Virtual Agent can do. Now, one of the things you want to bear in mind is that, yes, I've spoken about the Power Virtual Agent, but I don't know what you meant by being in Microsoft Teams. Now, so just to lay the background, one of the things is that the Power Virtual Agent comes in two flavors, is available in two flavors, really. You have it as a standalone web app. This is what the Power Virtual Agent came in. This was what it was generally known for until sometime last year, September, when it was announced in Ignite, that we're going to be having it as an app within Microsoft Teams. And so when it came out as an app within Microsoft Teams, it makes a lot of sense because it's going to assist a lot of us to be able to do some of those things that, you can now empower your employees to be able to do some of those things they can do on their own, and probably even without any knowledge of coding, create chatbots that can answer very simple questions in the organization. So moving on, I just want to lay a brief background of what the Power Virtual Agents in Microsoft Teams is all about. So your employees know the work, they know the process, but how about empowering them to build chatbots that can quickly help them to automate frequently asked questions and common business processes for really the HR, the service desks, and other scenario at no extra charge within Microsoft Sync. So why I use the word, why I want to stress so much on that is because when you use PVA within Microsoft Teams, you are actually paying no extra charge because it is bundled. If once you have a Teams license, you automatically have right to use any of those Power Virtual Agents or any of those Power Platform components, even Power Apps, Power BI, and a Power Automate within Microsoft Teams. Within Microsoft Teams, I'm not talking about it in a standalone. So that is one of the things we need to bear in mind. Now, what are the use scenario actually when you're using Power Virtual Agents bots in Microsoft Teams? Someone in the payroll department decides to create a chatbot that can help his teammate get tax filing forms and information. That's one of the use cases. Another use case is for the technical support and services engineer. You can create an IT help desk chatbot that can assist user on a step-by-step procedure to follow for typical help desk requests. Again, a facility manager can create a chatbot that answers the common questions they are receiving about coming back to work after a pandemic. So if you're one that has deployed the return to work app, the Power Apps app that is referred to return to work app, this will play a very good scenario here, really. When if you're a facility manager, again, you can actually use PVA in Microsoft Teams as a digital assistant to assist with employee onboarding process to help new hires. I actually love this feature so much because within many templates that you have in Microsoft Teams, you can just pin up a template for Teams, and then with that template, you can actually do what? Create a bot for that channel or for that team that it can actually help with employees onboarding. So this is a very cool feature here. Another, which is what we will be focusing on today, is using the bots in Teams as an HR resource employee. Really, you can create a bot that can manage questions about vacation balance, time off, and benefits. And again, as an HR, You can actually build an HR bot that can also help employee to learn about the career paths or growth in an organization. So you can actually direct staff also to a learning management site or website for courses applicable to specific discipline, really. Those are some of the things you can use the PBA bots in Microsoft Things. And finally, as a finance department, you can create the chatbots that help your teammates in the finance team to fill out expense report. So all of this and more is what you can use the Microsoft, I mean, you can use the Microsoft Power Virtual Agent bots in Microsoft Teams for. Now, moving on, I'm just going to delve briefly into the Microsoft Dataverse. Now, remember what I said at the back end or behind the wood, all of these, what brings or hold all of this data. So there are actually two types of Microsoft Dataverse, but what I'm concentrating on today would be for Microsoft Dataverse for Teams. So for the for the typical web standalone PVA, it will be using the Microsoft Dataverse. But for the one for Teams is actually specifically said, is specifically named Microsoft Dataverse for Teams. So what does it really provide? It provides a secure and cloud-based storage option for your data. And then one of the things that it does is that it's a built-in low-code data platform for Microsoft Teams. It can empower users to build custom bots and flow in Teams by using Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power Virtual Agents. Again, it provides a relational data storage with rich data types, and with one-click solution deployment, you can have it up and running. Again, the Microsoft Dataverse enables employees to easily build and develop apps. Some of the benefits include is included in the Office 365 licensing, so no additional license required. And please, for more clarity, I am referring to Microsoft Dataverse for Teams. If it's the standalone Microsoft Dataverse, yes, it has a cost implication to it. But the one for Microsoft Teams, I mean, for Microsoft Teams comes with no additional license required. And so it supports you to build low code and low code app flows and chatbot from within Teams. Yes, it also has a storage of 2 gig per team, and it can also support up to 1 million rows. And then it can also support up to 500 teams. So you can create up to 500 teams with the Microsoft Dataverse. And the cool part of it is that it empowers citizens developer, which I happen to be, because I am not a pro developer, so I don't know a single line of code, like I said. But with the Microsoft PVA and the Dataverse for Teams, I can get myself around. So right now, let's talk about the demo. I don't want to waste much of our time because, like I said, I just want to delve into the demo straight away. So what my demo is going to be showing us today, it's going to show you that you are the HR lead and you need to build a human resource support bot in Microsoft Teams. And this bot is going to be answering common questions, HR questions, such as those related to time off or relevant information from the company's internal knowledge base. The bot can also contact human HR experts and notify them of questions that employee needs help for. So with that, I'm just going to jump right into it. So if I may say, one of the first things you want to look at, um, so I'm just going to stop. I'm just going to stop my slide briefly, and then show you this. So can you see my Microsoft Teams? I just need a confirmation real fast before I go on, please. Can you see the Microsoft Teams, please?
Yes, it's visible.
Oh, all right, great. All right, great.
Yes,
So
everything's good.
now, yeah, that's fine. So if you can see right from here, you have my Microsoft Teams here. And then for you to enable the Power Virtual Agents, you just need to go to this ellipsis, and then you see the Power Virtual Agent here. Now, one of the first things you want to bear in mind is that when you want to build a team, a bot in Microsoft Team, you must have a team already. So you must have a team that is created. One of the cool ways for you to create that is to go to this, if you can see my mouse, to join and create team. And like I said, you have different templates right now that you can actually use for teams, so to create a team. So you can actually pick one from here, that suits your need. You can actually do that, or you create one from scratch, really, or you can create one from a group or from another team. That's the flexibility. But for this session, I've actually created one for the cloud launch and learn HR team. So, and then we're going to be looking at this channel. The work from home experience team is actually what this is going for. So, just to show you, like I said, you can enable your Power Virtual Agent by going into this, and then this will bring you up for the first time, and then it's going to load this for the first time, and then you can start. So, but for just to show you how you can, I'm gonna try again to bring in my teams here. I actually like to to build my teams myself. So when you start your Power Virtual Agent, for the first time, like I said, if you're the very first person building your organization and you click the word start now, it's actually going to try to install the Power Virtual Agents and loads all of the components, or let me use the word, the library, or any of the extended features that it wants to. But because I've created one, this is not my first time. So it's actually going to ask you to do what, to select a theme for the chatbot you want to create. So like I said, I'm selecting my CLL HR team for this, and then it's going to try to get things set to down for me. So okay, all right then. So just a minute. I think I want to end my slideshow now. I think I'll stay so awesome. Yeah, I think I want to end that. Yeah, very well. So when this chatbot comes up, I mean, what I'm going to try to do now is to create a bot and give it a name. There are a lot of components that you must be familiar with when you are building your bots. Some of those components are actually very, very key. So the very first thing you want to do is to give your bot a name. So I'm going to call this bot again CLM bot, then say create. So this is going to create and then put all of the other libraries or features or whatsoever it is. I used to call it, or like I said, I love to cook. So mixing all of those things together in the back end. So with that, it comes up. Now, first thing first, when you want to build your bots, you have to define what is called, what is referred to as a topic. The very first thing you will see when you want to build your bot is referred to as topic. So now it's creating this. So I just want to go into this place and probably when it's finished, and then show you some of the topics I want us to see. So what is referred to topic is this. A bot comes with a collection of topics, quite all right. And that topic is actually what defines the bot interaction with the end user. So the core of building any bots in PVA is to build topics that can respond to what different user inquiries. And then what actually the topic is responsible for is that it defines how your bot conversation is going to play out. Now, you can actually create new topics, or you can actually look for suggested topic. Now, when I mean the word suggested topic, is probably you have a topic already. I mean, you have like a website URL. When you click, is you're actually going to put the URL there, and then it's going to actually coin out questions, possible topics from it, really. possible topics from those from that website. So that's what suggested topic is for. But then it comes predefined with some system topics. These are also system topics that you already have. So you can actually use some of the system topics, or you create your own new topics. Now, one of the cool things that I normally do when I want to build my bot is, because like I said, you want to define what your bot is for. So, and then the first thing a bot will do is to do what? Is to send a greeting. So once you know what your bot is doing, you can define at the point of greeting what you want your bot to say. So for the greeting, the first thing I like to do is to edit my greeting, and then to be able to do what to say. I mean to be able to put in what my bot will say. So at the point of you creating a topic, you have what is referred to as what? As trigger phrases. Now, a trigger phrases, every topic has a trigger phrases. These are phrases or keywords or question that a user is likely to type that is related to a specific issue or a conversation notes. These are what you use to define how a bot should respond and what it should do. One of the cool things you want to know about triggers is that it uses the natural language understanding to pass what your user or even your customer is actually um, trying to say. And then it can do what that's with the bot. You can actually find the appropriate trigger phrase for it. So Power Virtual Agents, like I said, comes with built-in natural language capability. You only need to define a few trigger phrases about it, and then it's actually going to know the right word or the right phrase for it to respond to. So now with this greetings topic, I have all of these trigger phrases that could be anything, somebody types in and then this is what I want the person to say. But what I want to do right now is to go to my authoring canvas. And my authoring canvas is where you define the conversation part between your bots and your user, or in most cases, your customer, in case you're building for it. So what I want this bot to actually say, like I said, define what your bot wants to do. So with the topic, you can actually say what how you want to play your conversation part. So I'm going to delete this. These are system predefined messages that comes with it. Like I said, where for any of these trigger phrases, you actually have a message note that is also going to come out, or you can create message note. And example of those messages, you can actually ask a question, you can call up for other actions with it. But what I want to do here is this. I want my bot to have a different um, to reply with a different message. So I can edit this and go and do this and then paste in. So I just want my bot, so I don't need any of this information. I don't need this. I just want it to be very simple. So like I said, I am CLA bot, a new HR bot. I can help you with HR questions, and all of that. But then, because I am building this bot in Microsoft Teams, I want it to be very, very interactive. I want it to be able to personalize the person that is trying to interact with it. So what I'm going to do, there are some predefined variables really. So I'm going to come back here and put I. And then with these variables, I have variables for user display name. So what it's going to do is that it's going to call out the person's name that is actually logged on at that particular time. And then it's trying. So I'm going to put it here. And then so I'm going to put a space here and say, so that I can call I Olajumoke and all of that and these, and then it continues with that. So that's the way for you. So these are variables actually, and what the variables allows you to do is that it saves the responses from your user or from your customer in a conversation with your bot, so that they can reuse it later in the conversation. And so you have other things like entities, if you come into this place. So one of the things you have all of this place, which I would describe what they are for in a bit, and then you can I mean, you have things like the variables like I've spoken about, and then with this, I'm going to save my topic. It's actually very important that before you move away from your topic or from your when you're in the authoring canvas, you save whatever work you do before you go in there. So I'm going to go back to topic details really. So and then probably go back to go back. So what I wanted to show here is that we have the home, which I've showed you earlier. I've talked about entities, and then like I said, Power Virtual Agent uses entities to understand and identify the specific type of information from a user response. So you have entities like age, city, and all of that. You can put that. And now if you want to check how your bot is actually doing, you can use the analytics tab to check out how your bot is doing. How about when you have finished building your bot and you want to publish it, you can actually publish it from this and then you can do what? Manage, and you can publish it, and you can also manage it, put it in channels, and then put security settings. And if there is any AI capabilities you want to put in your bot, then you can go on with that. So I'm going to go back to my own, to where my bot is, and I'm going to go to topics right now. So the very first topic I want to define is employee time off. So I'm actually going to do that in a bit. So I'm going to try to create a new topic and then give it what? Employee time off. Now, some of the trigger phrases, remember we said, what are the likely phrase or keywords that your employee or your users are going to type for them to ask, or maybe they want to interact with your bot? Some of those phrases or keywords can be this: need information on a timeout, I need help, I need help on a timeout. I need help on time off really. How many days of paid vacation do I have? Um, and then what are the public holidays you have? So I'm gonna be putting holidays in Nigeria. Pardon me, but I just want to show you some of the things like I intend to do. Like I said, um, this is just to set up a basic for you on what you can actually do with your bot. And then the cool thing is that it can allow up to 5 to 10 diverse phrases like we put there. So before I go to the authoring window, I want to save my topic. Is actually very important. Save before you go forward so that you don't lose anything. So going to my authoring canvas right now. Yes, I use the word authoring table. Sometimes that's what I call it actually, but let me use the right phrases. Authoring canvas. So if any of your user type any of this phrase, what do you want? What do you want your bots to say? So I can say again, I still want to put my um I still want to do that. If any of the user type this, and I want to tell the user, sure, I can help with questions related to time off in case that's what. And then the next thing I want to do is that I'm going to also, even when this message is displayed to the user, if he picks any of this keyword, I want to ask the user also a question. So my question will be, what information are you actually looking at? So you find out that immediately I selected question. What I have right now is that I have the option for me to define the multiple options for my question. So I have all of these options. For me, when anytime you select the questions, you can define multiple choice question. You can actually save the person or the employee's answer with a response. You have all of these to pick from, really, all of these entities or options to pick from. But for the purpose of this demo, I'm just going to leave it at multiple questions. So what are the options I want? It's going to return back some questions to the user. Is it for a paid vacation you want information on? If you notice what has happened, immediately I put an option, it branches out into conditions really. So one of the cool things with PVA. it branches out into a condition, which means now I can set conditions that if you meet this condition, actually do what? Then take this action. This is the action I want my bot to do. So I'm just going to hurry up with these. I actually got my questions typed out because I actually do not want to start typing. So one of the things that this has done, so let's move on. First thing first, if I would encourage you to save your response, this variable with a name, so that it's not all the time that's what, or else you will be having things like var1, var2, var3, and all of that. So always save your variable, and then you have two options for the usage of the variable when you say whether you want to use it as a topic that is limited to this topic or to the scope, or you want to use it as in a bot so that every can be accessible for any other bots within your within your tenant. So I'm going to save this right now and call it time of, so, and then do this. So this is cool. So I'm going to close this back. And then, so what I want is that if it is for paid vacation, I already have this set to that. I have a SharePoint site that I know that my users can go to. So I want it to show them, if they select that option, to show them this message. And then if it is for national holiday in my country, in Nigeria, we don't really enjoy so much holidays like you guys do there. But then for the few ones we have, um, I'm just going to ask them to show the same holidays. So great. And then, I can customize my response very well. I can put them in this way so that it's more presentable. But then if I want it, so with each of those questions, I can actually put a survey at the end of it to say end with a survey, end with a survey also. If I do answer your question, you want to learn more. But for this, for extended view, one of the things that Power Virtual Agents can do is that your bot can take actions by adding Power Automate flow into a topic. So for this instance of extended view, I want it in such a way that it can notify an HR expert to be able to answer that question. So with this flow, you can actually send an adaptive card to the HR the HR expert in the channel in Teams to let them know what the user need, or you can actually send a message to them. So what I want is that I'm going to integrate Microsoft Flow into this real fast. So I put that for extended leave, I want this question, this answer to be given. And so it shows this message. But for extended leaves, it needs what? An HR expert approval. So let me connect you with them. So the next thing I want you to do is to do what? To ask a question. And that question will be, how would you describe the issue you're asking, or the clarification? So I'm asking the user, how does it want to describe? Now, because I have saved this, because I have this as a question, I have the option. I don't want a multiple choice question this time around. So I want it to be a user entire response. That's the entity I want it to pick. So like I said, anytime you have a variable, make sure that you save your variable with something that is descriptive enough. So I'm going to put this as description. That is, I want the fellow to describe what is trying to say. So let's save this as description one. Okay, let me just put it as description so that it's easy enough. Okay, so I have this, and then with that, I can now do what? I can save the entire. Then the next thing I can do is to say what? I need more information. I can call out, sorry, I can call out an action here for what? For to create a flow. Okay, so this is what I love about Power Virtual Agent. Remember what I said before you leave your page, always make sure that you save. So I forgot to save. good enough, it actually called my attention to that. So I'm going to save this right now and call for an action. And the action will be for me to call out for a flow. So I'm going to try to create a flow. So what this flow is actually doing is that since the user in question is trying to ask for extended leave, what I'm trying to do here is this. I can't answer you that question as a bot right now, but I can transfer you to an HR expert to be able to answer you. So one of the things I'll do again is to do what? I will have these options for me to select when it gets to Power Automate. So, but in this case, I want to send a message to a Teams channel. So this is what I'm going to select. And then once it builds it, I can click on continue. So for that to happen, um, so while that is going on, I'm just going to wait for that to load. Um, So great. So this is what I have for the Power Virtual ID. So my subject will still be subject text that is, that is that probably maybe when my bot or the user is asking the question is going to save it as that. My message will still be the message body of what they type at the end of the day, which I will describe. Then what is important here is that which teams am I selecting? So remember, I have a lot of team, but then it is this CLA HR thing. Then I need to select a channel. Now the channel, like I said, I want to use the work from home experienced team, really. So I'm going to have this message quite all right. And then what I need is really that I want it to be able to send to HR. Probably maybe I just do dear HR. Let me just customize my message. It'll be dear HR. You know, when you want to ask question from HR experts, especially in organizations, you want to be very nice to them so that you can actually get your response on time, you know. So I'm just going to try to be friendly and give this template. And then whatever the user types will come as the message. So this is just as simple as possible. I've actually done this and then do what? Send it to my HR. That is all I need. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to save my bot right now. My flow. I'm going to save my flow. And then when my flow finish saving, I can go back to what I can return back to the Power Virtual Agent. So you can see, so once I close this, it takes me back to the bots that I'm building. So I think I have like 15 minutes. Great. So what I'm going to do right now is that I'm going to select that so I would say this, I need more information about maybe my boards when the user is coming. So you call for the action that I've selected right now. Select your action once again. So we'll select the bots. Oh, sorry. So my mistake is very important. So let me go back to the bot. It's actually very important that when you create your bot, because if you do not rename your bot, you have it as the same name almost all the time. So my bad. So I can actually my flow. I can actually change the name of my flow here to um, HR flow. You know, it's very important that you rename your flow so that it doesn't bear the default name, or else it will. Once you have the same kind of flow selected, then you will have one or two appended to it. So I'm just going to close this, and then it returns. So great. So I'm going to select my flow right now and then select it this way. So for the subject, I will call it, my subject will be time off, and then the message will be what the description, what I save it as. So this Yes, I called it time off, and then what I saved this as was description. So I'm right. Just wanna, then I can end this with a survey. So in one word, what I've done here, so I just want to quickly run through this. What I've done here is this. Now, with the extended leave, what I try to do is that the bot can answer the question quite all right. So I decided to send it to an HR expert, and then I employed to do that with the use of the Power with Power Automate. So you see this, the flexibility and the ease with which my Power Virtual Agents move from the Power Agents up into the Power Automate. And then from the Power Automate, I can actually select a type of flow. So the type of flow which I selected actually helps me to be able to wrap the user's response and then probably maybe what they're looking for into all of this. So this is fine. Then I can pass this. So what I need to do is this. I'm just going to save this and then I'm going to test my bot right now. So once I save this, you can actually have the same window to test your bot. But before I go on, one cool thing you need to see is that with PVA, you have what is called a topic checker. Now, if there's anything, it's like an it's like a debugging window, so to say. If there's anything wrong with my bot, really, or maybe the topics or the way it is being defined, I will be able to do what I'll be able to see it on time, and then we'll be able to check for any of those issues and point me there. But good enough is not, I mean, I don't have any problem, so I can actually test. So it's always good for you to test your bot before you go out. So what I want to do is now I'm going to try to say, interact with the bot and let's see what it's going to do. So remember, I said I want it to be able to speak to the user that is typing it. So it says, hi, Olajumoke. Now, this is a test environment. Definitely, I don't need you to have this much of, of a response from your bot, but then you will know what to define really. So, hi, Olajumoke, and then it says what it is for. So, what do I need it for? So, the question is that, I need, I just want to quickly test it. And my question would be, um, I need information on time of, and then yes, it tells me. So you can see what the cool thing is that my bot is actually showing me from each of the stages as I'm doing. And then it can tell me, okay, yes, I'm on this stage. And then, yes, I want to test this stage. So I said, yes, I want to know the holidays in Nigeria, the national holidays in Nigeria. And then it returns back to me, yes, this is all the holidays in Nigeria you want to know. So this helped me plan ahead. For me, as an employee in my organization, I always like to know this because I actually like to plan my leave period, my vacation towards an holiday, so I can, you know. So that's what I love to do. Then, so if I answer the question, so I said yes, so I can actually rate it. I created this bot, so I can give it the right answer, and then yes, but can I help you with something else? Yes, I want to know things on extended. I want to know things on extended leave. Okay, so I think I have about 10 minutes more, and then I'll be sure to do this quickly. So once I say I want to know things on extended leave, let's see what it's gonna do. It's gonna respond to this. Yes, so yeah, as I said, I should go ahead and what am I looking for in extended leave? So let's see, I want to respond to this. So so how would you describe your business? So I want to put this there. How would you describe the issue? So I need more information about my entitlement for extended leave set. So then I need more information. Oh, sorry, I think I lost one part there. Okay, so I'm supposed to have. So let's quickly do that. I think I lost one part in my topics details. So I actually wanted to put a part where it's going to transfer So, I actually want, before I end this, I want to put a message. You see how easy it is to notify the user when the user put his details that we have notified, they will be reaching to you shortly. So I want to save this. And so that is what the user. So once this is passed, and then, so I just want to show you from the user end, I mean, from HR, from the HR end, what they will be seeing. Now, this is David Stone, and it's part of the user, um, it's part of the users, so to say, or the HR expert. So you can see this is David Stone that is logged in, and you can see that Olajumoke's request is coming to it. Remember the template I put, I imputed in the in the flow. And then remember the topic it picked the topic. Like I said, I defined the topic, so it picked it as the extended leave is what I'm looking for. Then the person's request, I need more information about my entitlement. So with this, David Stone, as a member of the HR, can start a one-on-one chat with Olajumoke instead. So I think I just have like 7 minutes left, and then that actually brings me. But before I go, let me quickly show you how you can publish your bot. So you can actually come in here now and do what you want to publish this bot. Now you have two options for you to publish the bot. But before I publish, okay, so because I'm going to publish the latest content. So if I do this with publishing the bot, let me open my bot once again. So let's see. Okay, so all right. So now I have the option for me to share it. So I have the option for me to share it with my organization, whether I want to submit it for an admin approval or I want it to add to a team, probably me for specific team members. So this is actually straightforward, and with this you can actually have it for your OT. So if I add it to a team, I can select the team I want to have it to, and then it will be available for that team. It's added to the team and all of that. So one of the things I want to show you is on things once again. If you go into where your apps is really, you can actually see if it is published. You can actually see something here that is built. Okay, cool. That is built for your organization. So for built for organization, you can actually interact with all of these. We can interact with the bot. So you can add it maybe specifically for yourself or especially a um, for a team. So this is the very simple way for you to build a bot from within Microsoft Teams. And like I said, I have not done anything around coding. So you can imagine if I were to be able to do all of this, and then how many bots my employees can build in a day, without coding actually. So let me just run real quickly what the benefits is. So the benefits of you doing this is because you do not have a low code graphical interface. It eliminates the gap between subject matter experts and development teams built in the bot. You can reduce the time for the bot builders and owner recognize an issue to when it can be updated. You can remove the need to understand complex conversational AI system and methodologies. You can simplify the need for a complex code. And then IT effort can greatly be reduced. And then using the PVA within teams, you can actually do a lot of things. You can empower your teams by allowing them to easily build bots themselves without needing third party or any intermediaries or coding or AI expertise, really. Then you can reduce costs by easily automating common inquiries and freeing human agents to deal with more complex. And so you can actually resolve 24/7 issues with it. So that brings me to the end of my session, and then I'm willing now to take some questions if I have any question.
Great session. Thank you. It was really engaging, and it was kind of from zero to hero with low code. How to build the uh, the bots, and that's really cool. That's RPA. That's something that automation. And business are like that a lot. And as a developers or business users bringing that into life, it will just make the big smile on the boss's face, I would say, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Is there any resources that you would, advise our attendees, the watchers, to go into if they have like more questions or something to research and get some more deep information about that?
So there are on Microsoft Doc. Microsoft Docs, actually you have a lot of information on Power Virtual Agents, and then once again you can actually reach out to me if you feel you have any question again, or probably maybe you need more guidance on PV. You can reach out to me on any of my social media. I can assist. I mean,
Yeah. Would you like to show that slide with your connections and everything before we end the
okay.
session? Yeah, that would be nice for everyone to see.
Yeah, okay, I want to go through this.
Yeah.
All right. So, um,
Here we go.
once again, so you can actually reach out to me on Twitter. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn profile is the same name, Olajumo Keturela. You can actually reach out to me at any time. And then there are many Microsoft Docs that you can actually use.
Great. Thank you again for session, and for everybody who was watching this interesting session. Please, check in. There's a link for feedback. Put your feedback there, and plus, get the registration done, because the first 20 attendees who watched the most of the sessions and made that feedback, they will be drawn into the prizes by our sponsors, Microsoft, Redgate, and other partners. So be part of this, engaging session to win some prizes in between. Again, thank you everyone. Thank you for a wonderful session. Ola,
Thank
Juno. Okay,
you.
so I hope I didn't butcher your name. So have a good day, good evening on your end, and it was great having you here. Thank you.
Same
Bye.
here. So thank you.
Yes,
Bye.
great. And we'll have here short, we'll have short break, and then we'll be back in the studio. All right. See you all in a few minutes. Welcome everyone back to our studio. My name is Elhan Yusupov, and I'm really excited to greet you all. Uh, we're having great sessions tonight. At least it's my local time here in East US, and we have a great speakers lined up for our Cloud Launch and Learn Marathon. Uh, just to remind, we will have the registrations on the link. So go ahead and register your participation so that you can be in the drawing for earning some prizes, and plus giving your feedback to help our speakers to know what you like the most and how they can make even more engaging and more interesting sessions for you. But this one is really good one. It is Azure migration. It's always on the top of the everything that everybody wanna how to migrate to the cloud, right? And here we go. We have awesome speaker Vukasin Trezic. I hope I didn't butcher your name.
Wookie.
Wookie. Okay, just keeping
Right.
simple. Wookie,
Yeah.
please welcome Wookie, where we will be covering the Azure migration. Go ahead, Wookie.
Perfect. Thank you for having me. I'm just trying to share my screen. You should see my presentation soon. Perfect. So today's session is a live Ask Me Anything session about Azure migration, about all things related to Azure migration. And just in the beginning, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Vukasin Terzic, Wookie. I work as a cloud solution architect for a company that is based in Czech Republic. And I'm currently focusing mostly on Azure-related projects and helping our customers achieve all sorts of cool things with Azure. I also work with virtualization platforms, hyperconverged infrastructures, Active Directory, and other Windows-based infrastructures, bits and bobs, including building data centers and networks and so on. Apart from that, my family and I are full-time travelers and digital nomads. A job that I'm doing allows me to work fully remotely, and so for the past couple of years, I think we started sometime in 2017, and so we are traveling around the world and moving from one location to another. During COVID, of course, that was more difficult and more challenging, but still, it's almost a year since I was last time home in Prague. And we are currently in south of Portugal, in beautiful Algarve. Came here a few weeks ago from Spain. And right now, here is midnight, so it's a very late session for me, or actually, should I say early morning session, because it's a new day now. So that's about me. And also, if you have any questions that we don't have time to cover during this session, or if you are interested in Azure migration in any way, here are my contact details. You can always reach on Twitter. I love helping community and customers. And so that's intro about me. And as I said, we are open for any questions. You can ask us. You can ask me anything about Azure migration related topics. However, I did collect already some questions from people on Twitter and LinkedIn before this session, so we have something to start with. But in case you have any questions now, feel free to ask them, and then we will try to answer those. I will try to answer those with the priority. Right. So actually, before start answering any questions, I would like to jump into one slide that I prepared here for you. That is showing complete, or how complete the Azure migration process looks like. And I really like this slide, and this is a slide created by Microsoft. I used it in some trainings that I was delivering for Microsoft, and I really like it because it's based on real migration. That was migration scenarios and migration needs that were performed by hundreds of Microsoft customers. And the real outcome of that is saying that the no migration is linear process or simple. And I 100% believe in that, and I see that while performing different migrations to Azure for different sizes and different types of customers. And those steps, they really make sense. But for someone doing migration for the first time, this is something very difficult to see and very difficult to understand all those extra steps. And also for me, when I started doing my first Azure migration, I didn't think about half of those, maybe even more than half of those steps that they need to be done. And of course, when you know that there are extra things to think about, then everything can be planned and performed much better way. So let's start with this graph. I'm going to guide you through all of those different areas. And more info about this and about this entire process can be found on Cloud Adoption Framework. And I believe most of this, what is described here, comes from the Cloud Adoption Framework. So let's take a look at this. So in the beginning, when we think about migrations as such, about Azure migrations, first we need to have some trigger, something that triggers the situation that we start thinking. Because if we have everything in the on-premises environment and we have our new hardware and contracts for another 5 years, we are not going to think about migrating everything to Azure or any other cloud at that moment. We might think about using Azure for some extra things, but we are keeping everything that we have. But of course, if some situations like ending of the contract or hardware is expiring, the hardware warranty is expiring, and something like that, in that situation, we start thinking about, okay, let's compare it with Azure. And then and there will be those triggers, there can be many of them. And then that was just an example. And so we get to the point when we decide, okay, let's do Azure, let's go to Azure. But when we decide to do it, we find out that it's not the one straight line, right? We have to do a few things. And so the first thing that we should be doing, but it's often forgotten, is defining the business strategy. And this is like adopting cloud brings a lot of changes. It's called like digital transformation for your company. And so it will affect not only the IT, it's not like we are just transferring the servers from one server to another. It affects more. It affects even like the company culture and so on. And so before we go there, we have to realize or find out what is that going to bring to us? What are the benefits for our company? And how are we going to distribute those benefits through entire company? And then one important thing is to find out what do we expect, what we think it will bring us, and how we are going to measure it. And that's very often forgotten because we can, be promised something by cloud vendor, by partner, by some like company trying to sell us something. They can tell us a lot of things, but for us, it's important to find out how we can measure it. And so once we have those things, like expectations, how we are going to measure it, then we can get the finance for it, and then we will give it the green light. So migration, preparation can start. But of course, it will be very difficult to start if we don't have any knowledge, any experience with it. So that's the time when we can hire a partner. And I myself work for one of those Microsoft certified partners. And we actually do even specialize in Azure migrations, but in Microsoft ecosystem, you can find many partners that can help you with this, or you can even use some Microsoft offers, like a fast track or something like that, that can actually help you with getting the knowledge and working on. And so once you have that aligned, then you have skills. Then you start assessment. And this is discovery and assessment phase is actually a very important phase because this is the first time you are touching something. And so in this phase, we will use tools like Azure Migrate that we have available to do the assessment of our environment. And so just like to how to say, having these tools available for us, it's a great thing because some of those things that now automatic assessment that is integrated in Azure Migrate can do for us, actually before we were doing all of this manually, and that was horrible. We had to spend a lot of time in Excel and recalculating everything and changing it and never be sure if it's accurate, if it's actually correct, and so on. And now, so we have tools that will help us do assessment. And when we do assessment, we have to find out, okay, so we did assessment of this, maybe we will not migrate this, we will migrate this, and so on. So we try to get as much information about our on-premises environment and how we want to have that in cloud during this phase. And so now at the end of this phase, we will have a data that we didn't have before. Okay, so here we got the confirmation that we can do it. But now here, after this phase, which is very important, we get the data that we can use to realistically take a look at the Azure or using Azure in our company. And so first we will know what's the price, because we know what we want to run there. So we will know how much it will cost. We will know if some of the business critical services and applications are supported or not. In some cases, there will be cases that some application that doesn't make sense to migrate it, and then maybe the entire project doesn't make sense, because if you are going to keep something on-prem, then maybe you can keep more of it, because still you have to pay for the data center, to pay for the server, and so on. And so that all should come, or most of that info should come from this phase, and then we put that all info back to the business, back to the stakeholders, and we ask them again to approve the finances, this time more accurate. And so this is where the final decision, if you are going to Azure or not, is being made. And again, this is not decision of IT department, this is decision of the business department. And then when the business case is done, then we are again starting to migrate, or not to migrate yet, but we are starting to prepare migration. And migration planning, it's also a very important phase. You will find out that during this phase, you have to prepare a lot of documents, you have to prepare a lot of, to think in depth about things, how you are going to do it. And this is probably the phase when you will, for me as an IT who was implementing this on each migration project, during this phase, I learned a lot because you always discover some new scenarios that you never did before, or you discover some like new tools, new services in Azure that you never used before. And so this, of course, that's not the primary goal to learn during this phase, but the primary goal is to learn everything you need to be able to create that architecture design document. And so once that's done, you should have a good overview of what do you need to do. And then, of course, you need to make sure that your in-house people or people who will be providing this service, maybe you are outsourcing it, need to get all the skills. And so that's also a very important phase. This can be sometimes stretched a little bit longer. It doesn't need to finish here in case you are using some of the partners. But again, it's a very important skill. And then I believe this is the most important part of the migration that is always being skipped by the companies who are doing the migration, especially for the first time, and that's preparation of the landing zone. So when we talk about Azure migration, we usually think about how to take a server from one place, move it to another. But what we almost always forget is how to prepare the new environment. And I see that also as a big part of the migration process, because you are moving into a completely new environment, and the landing zone, as written here, contains a lot of things. It's how you are going to structure your subscriptions, how you are going to divide your networks, how you're going to connect those networks, what kind of identity management are you going to use, and how you are going to assign access rights. Are you going to monitor something? Are you going to make something secure? What kind of limitations are you going to use in terms of like having Azure governance and having consistent and secure environment? And in most cases, when someone is doing migration for the first time, what I see people do is that they only create subscription. They create a virtual resource group. Inside of that resource group, they create a network. They connect that network to their on-prem via, I don't know, site-to-site VPN, express route, something like that. And that's it. But that's the worst thing you can do, because you are allowing unsecure environment to connect to your on-premises environment, and like is going to end up. No, I'm not saying it's unsecure completely, but it's not going to end up well. And so this is where the entire Azure governance should kick in first, where we should apply all of those things that we designed here, and then we should actually apply it, configure it, create all policies, create environment that will keep it consistent, so we don't end up with resources all around the world, with wrong naming conventions, with wrong VM sizes, with no tags and no airbag configured, because that will lead to inconsistent and uncontrollable environment that will be very difficult to keep. And of course, that all will have impact on a big cost. And so once we have a landing zone properly prepared, we can start with the migration. And now this is the time when we first moving something from on-premises to Azure. And here we created a bunch of things in Azure. So at this moment, our environment exists. It contains all sorts of things, from networks to maybe firewalls, to like recovery vaults, to a lot of other things that maybe some already pre-installed domain controllers, something like that, that already exists. But this is the time when we are actually executing the migration, and we are taking something that was production before, and we are moving it in this new prepared environment. And of course, that can be phased. That can be phased in a couple, like in test, pilot, migrate, and so on. What's important to do is, or why I like to do the test is, because during this test, you will learn something new again. You will like maybe be able to finally see what's the bandwidth, what's the speed of copying files, for example, and before you can only guess. But when you try to do it, you will see how fast it goes. And then you will maybe like see that you need to do something to give it like a longer time and so on. And then you can like all your migration plan, you can recalibrate based on the real findings you got from here. And so before you do like a real migration, you should have all the data and info for you. Just make your life easier with those kind of things. And then, of course, we are doing migration. During migration, it's important to like have some documents on hand that will help you to track every step of the migration. And then, of course, most important is to have some kind of like tests prepared, and those application owners or end users or someone, in my case, usually client, will do their like acceptance test and make sure that everything is working as expected. And then we have another area here called security and compliance. And I already mentioned that some of this needs to be applied before, and that's completely true. But in the end, like some things cannot be applied really before, because you are performing migration. Once that's done, you have to close some doors, maybe even completely destroy or disable network between on-prem and Azure if you are moved completely, and so on. But what needs to be configured is, of course, logging and monitoring. You need to be able to have those logs, to have those warnings, to receive notifications. Users needs to be trained. We need to think about other layers of security that we can apply. And I mentioned security a few times here as if the Azure environment is insecure. That's not true. Azure environment is secure. But one thing to notice is that it's as secure as we make it. So we have a lot of tools, a lot of settings that we can configure, but no one is going to do that for us. So we have to make sure that we can use it. We use the right tools. And then Usually, this will be the end of the process if we were doing something in on-premises environment. But here, actually, the process never ends because we always have to optimize. And now, of course, when we go to operations, we have to make sure that we have all of those operational things like backup, patching. Maybe we didn't move our system center to cloud. Maybe we didn't move our Versus server, or maybe we decided, okay, so we have some backup solution, which requires a lot of storage. It requires, I don't know, some special licenses. It requires special server, so maybe we can use Azure Backup, right? So that can be a change there, and during the migration we do a lot of optimizations, and so it will be, of course, to configure Azure Backup, and then again we go back here into our governance and our policies, where we can say, okay, so now we use Azure Backup, let's do that automated. And so what can happen is that we can create, for example, Azure policy that will automatically enable backup for resource type virtual machine that has a tag environment with value production. So that's the Azure policy I use basically everywhere. It's very easy to write. It is custom policy that doesn't exist anywhere there, but you can easily write it, and basically you can ensure that all the production virtual machines have some backup in place. Same goes for disaster recovery. And then, of course, we can extend our tools and use new tools that we have available now, or we can also configure our existing tools. And then we go back and then we optimize, right? So usually, and here's one of the questions that I have here that I would like to read if I find it. So one of the questions that I received was, so I cannot find that question, but the question was about migrating as is or optimizing. And so I would like to, or when to do what. And so that really depends. It's in the ideal world, we would spend a lot of time and a lot of money on migration. And before we move something to Azure, we will not move it just as is, but we will optimize it to be cloud optimized. And so what that means, it means, of course, that we are not using virtual machines, but we are using platform services, and for everything we can, right? But that's not going to happen, because usually the business stakeholders from here, they want to see some results fast, or let's say it's expiring our data center contract, and we have to get rid of everything what's there fast. So the fastest migration is lift and shift, or lift optimize shift, where we take our virtual machines we have, or even physical servers, and move them to Azure. Right. So that's how we usually do it. And that's the fastest way to do it. But in case we do that, of course, we are keeping overhead. We have a virtual machine that we have to patch. We have to take care of it, and it's usually most expensive solution. But if we, let's say, move SQL Server to Azure, that server will require a lot of RAM. It will require still the license for the operating system and for the SQL, and we have to manage it, we'll have to patch it, we'll have to make it highly available, and so on. So a lot of work, right? But if we move our databases not into the SQL server inside of the virtual machine, but there is a service, right? It can be a SQL instance or a database that is provided by Microsoft, which means that we don't have access to full operating system, but we don't need full operating system, and we can use this service to run our database. We lose some control, but the gain is that basically Microsoft takes care of everything. It makes it highly available, doing the patching and everything else, and we are just using the part we need, right? So that's the optimization. However, sometimes this is not possible, and it's not possible because, for example, we have some workarounds or some special tools that we are using and we need access to operating system. Or sometimes it's possible, but the vendor of the application say, okay, we don't have that tested, so it's not supported. And so we are stuck with the SQL server instead. So this is just one of the examples, and it's never easy to say when to do what, but the trend, or how I see it usually, is that customers, and we are migrating different customers. I work for a partner that is doing it for other customers, so I'm not just working with one company in one scenario, but with many of them. And so usually how we see it and how we do it is that there is a quick lift and shift migration, but even during the first phase of the planning, there is a plan for 3 to 5 years. And so if we perform quick migration now, we can still do some optimization, like let's say replace the backups with Azure Backup. So instead of migrating old backup server, we will just migrate virtual machines and enable Azure Backup for them. So that's small optimization. I like writing things in PowerShell, so and when I see that the customer have like server or multiple servers running server on premises virtual machine just to execute some, let's say, automated tasks, scheduled tasks to run their PowerShell script. Quick and easy optimization of that is to move those PowerShell scripts to Azure Automation account and run them from there. Right, that's easy. Doesn't require big planning, big changing, or so on. But of course, there are some situations where the optimization will be much slower, and so it will take more money and more time and so on. So it's not possible to do it on the beginning. Okay, so I managed to answer one question. But because we didn't have fresh questions, I think going over that slide and showing the migration process can also be useful.
Great. Thank you for all those insights, Vuka. And quick question, like in any migration process, right? So in order to get a bit of kind of feeling about what this migration will look like and what to expect, would you recommend kind of to have this start small experiment and see how it works and then move to the bigger scale? Or what were the scenarios where starting small actually help you discover even more things in your migration planning and process?
Yeah, for sure. So it's important to understand that migration is not like going to Azure is not all or nothing. Microsoft counts with hybrid, and so how it usually starts is that we either migrate something to Azure and learn by doing it, or we don't even need to migrate to adopt Azure services because, for example, I often have customers that they need extra computing power quickly and they cannot wait for buying new servers or that's more expensive. So they start using some services in Azure on top of whatever they have in the on-premises environment. And that's also a great way to learn new things, to discover new things, and then slowly adopt, or wait for the on-premises thing to become obsolete or out of warranty and then replace them with a new one in Azure. There are many situations like that.
Great. And just last question from me, kind of to tease your presentation here. What would be like quick wins in terms of Azure migration? If you are an IT person and you have this from management, hey, we have to migrate and give us a plan where we can get the maximum for our buck, for our bang, right? That's how they call it in the United States. So what would be that easy kind of low hanging fruits in terms of Azure migration that you would recommend, anybody who is attending this session to first focus on those things?
Right. So as you mentioned, the services that don't have too much dependencies, services that can be easily replaced and migrated in a way that you just take one virtual machine, move it. The only thing that will change for that virtual machine is usually like internal IP address. And there are many services. An example for this can like be even some kind of storage, but it can even be like test environment. It can be some services and applications that don't have any dependencies on anything else. You can move them there, free up some space in on premises, and see how they perform in Azure. And usually, like the answer, or not the answer, but the result will be great, and you will be satisfied. There is a little bit problem here, because once you customers like this very much, click, new virtual machine is there, they can use it. But usually in the slow and small adoption scenarios, we have a problem that they don't prepare the landing zone.
Mm-hmm.
And so they start click. Suddenly they have 10 virtual machines, but each of them is in different region. They have different names. They have different sizes. And so that's later difficult to recover from that. But for the customers adopting Azure, this is a good place for them to learn and feel good about it.
Okay, sounded like start small but think big, right? In terms of where you are going, so that you don't get lost. And plus, as you mentioned, like if you are working for enterprise, keep in mind that there are these data governance, security related compliance, and you need to derive them not from what you see as a sample, but based on your organization policies and region where you are operating and your customer compliance requirements, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Great. That's all very good, and thank you for showing, and sharing your experience in terms of what type of migrations you did, what plan you followed, and what type of benefits you saw in the way. This was really, really interesting, and I hope everybody enjoyed. I look at the questions in the chat. I don't see for now any of them, but I believe if you can share your slide with your connections on LinkedIn and other places, so that whoever watched this session later on, they can reach to you. Yeah, here it is. And yeah, great. So everybody, feel free to get connected with Vuka. If you have any questions, he's there. Thank you for a great question, great session again. I know it's late night on your end, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone
Thank you.
for
Thanks for having
participating.
me.
Yes. So we'll put another break here. Don't forget to check up the Cloud Launch and Learn marathon, the other sessions, and plus, give the feedback for this session. Again, thank you, presenter. Hope to see you back again. Bye for now.
Okay. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.